Do you want to learn a very old and extremely out-of-date Japanese slang term? Well, then today's Japanese slang term is for you because it's kibonu, which means to want. So you kibonu to learn about kibonu. Now this is very clearly a variant of kibosuru, which is the normal term for like to want, to desire something. But unlike kibosuru, which is again a verb, the grammar form that you'll see kibonu usually in is noun plus kibonu. So this person here, for instance, uses kibonu with the noun saihan, which is to like resell something, to desire the re-release and reselling of the Gundam figure that they're talking about. So if you, for instance, desire me to tell you where kibonu comes from, you could say like kigen kibonu or yurai kibonu, and I will because it comes from the year 2000. That's right, it's 26 years old, and we know that because it specifically relates to the 2000 Olympics, which were held in Sydney, where I am. Anyway, during this Olympics, a Japanese athlete known as Yvonne Kanazawa, who you can see here, caused a bit of buzz due to, one, her name. Obviously, Yvonne's not an extremely common name for Japanese people, and also because she has a background. And unfortunately, even today, being a Japanese person who does not look Japanese, air quotes very much needed, can become a topic of conversation. There's been discourse, for instance, about the selections for Miss Japan. Naomi Osaka, who plays for Japan, for instance, has had her Japanese speech rendered in katakana. I've talked about it in my book, but there were news articles about it. So if it's like that today, you can imagine how it was over 20 years ago. So for those reasons then, Japanese people, especially Japanese netizens, were paying a lot of attention to Yvonne. And if you haven't caught the link yet, Yvonne in Japanese is rendered as kibonu, which of course rhymes with the word that we got out of this, which is kibonu. Now, I obviously don't have access to Japanese internet discussions in the year 2000, so I don't know the exact context, but I hope, and my guess is honestly, that this form of kind of nameplay was meant to be positive, as the people who were watching Ibonu were kibonuing Ibonu in order to win medals for Japan. That was a hard sentence to say. But this play became enough of a thing that kibonu spread throughout the Japanese internet and became a major feature of the early Japanese internet. And yes, you can still see people using it today, such as in this image of somebody using it to say that their goldfish is looking for food, although they might write that it's a dead word next to it. Is that true? Is kibonu dead? Well, clearly not dead, as I can find uses in 2026. I can find a few of them. Minimally, it's a shambling corpse, right? But if we look at the Google Trends, that's not what I would call a healthy heartbeat for a word, no. And back in 2011, the now defunct, and yes, I am still upset about it, Japanese website Goo, which was a great dictionary, made a list of the top words from 2chan that we don't see anymore, and kibonu won. Congratulations, good job. Now, they say that they can't see it anymore, but it's very easy to find examples of kibonu, and a lot of them on Twitter in 2011, so I guess they weren't looking that hard for it. But the Google Trends doesn't lie, and there's no question that by this time it was considered kind of old hat. But don't cry too much for kibonu. It would not kibonu that because it had a good life, and it even had offspring. For instance, shibonu is a version of to be dead, coming from shinu. I don't think there's any example I could find that's clearer than this, but yeah, you can definitely find people still using it today as well. And shobonu, which comes from shombori, which means to be downhearted or dejected, is also a extant phrase. That cat is very shobonu. And because kibonu itself is so old, these variants are also very old, which means that a lot of the first people using them, a lot of the first uses are now gone. So I don't know when exactly they appeared, but I can confirm that they existed since the beginning of Twitter in 2007. So I think it's safe to say they also have at least 2 decades of use behind them. And that's basically it, unless, what's that? You kibonu more old Japanese 2chan slang? Well, let's also talk about hoshu then, because I don't think I can make a full video on it. But I want to talk about it, and it's related. This word literally means conservative, so it's nearly impossible to find out when people started using it as slang because you will find uses of it. But this was a term that was used on 2chan to preserve, or I guess conserve, a thread for whatever reason. Basically, 2chan had a policy whereas if a thread did not get commented on enough, or if they were inactive for a certain amount of time, they would either delete it or, of course, let it bump down into the system until it disappeared. People who did not want this to happen to a thread, either because they wanted to check it out later or they wanted other people to see it and comment on it and keep it going, would use hoshu as a comment to mean that they want the thread to be preserved. You could say this is synonymous with like bump in English, but it's kind of different as it's more about keeping the thread alive so it doesn't get deleted rather than bumping it up into the list. Indeed, if you wanted an actual exact translation of bump, that would be age written in Romaji, as you can see in this explanation here. And apparently sage, not sage, was developed as a way to post something without bumping a thread up in case you wanted like people not to see your comment, or if you thought it would be controversial or something. This didn't actually lower the comment, but it prevented it from going up, which would, in time kind of lower it. It's very hard to find uses of any of these going back to like the 2000s when they were actually in use, but here, for instance, is a thread from 2chan called the Let's Save This Thread for 10 Years thread, and people are, year to year posting hoshu in order to make sure that it doesn't get deleted. So as somebody that kibonu's subcultural language practices, regardless of how small, obscure, or no longer relevant, to stay alive, I'm glad that I've been able to hoshu these phenomenon a little bit, and if you are too, be sure to say so in the comments so that you can augment this video in the rankings.